Naruto's really seen some stuff in this little AU. I mean, does the suffering ever end for our gutsy shinobi? To have nothing, be treated like you're nothing, only to gain something, a sweet taste of what others take for granted. Then suddenly you have nothing again. Nothing but heartache and a memento of what could have been. It really is a sad turn of events for Naruto, but maybe things will look up. He finally decided to go training with Jiraiya, but only if Konohamaru could come with him. Konohamaru has also experienced loss, but through both of them being ripped to shreds by the world, they learn to bond and use each other as the rock they need. A bond closer than friends will grow. A bond like brothers, but they're not the only brothers in the world. There's at least one brother who has lost something, and I'm hoping to see what becomes of him. But first, welcome to the Amagi. Before we begin, we publish a new video every day. If you subscribe in the next 10 seconds, the next time you step in a puddle, your shoes and socks will come out dry. And if you ring that bell, they'll even come out more clean and sparkling than when you stepped in that puddle. The Amagi's reach stretches beyond this channel, so if you're a fan of us, please consider subscribing to our other channels and following us on all of our social media. Help us reach our goal of passing 100,000 followers on all of our accounts by the end of the year. Itachi sat in his chair. He'd been in the middle of a meeting when he excused himself. It wasn't hard. He was sick. He was growing worse by the day, and every so often he'd find himself coughing up blood. He would use this as an excuse to get away. Pain was, amazingly, a very patient man and would excuse him. More than once, Itachi'd even gotten packages from Pain himself with exotic medicines and ways of treating illness. These were really useful. He almost felt bad that he was plotting his downfall. Despite Pain's nihilistic views, he was still good inside. Itachi wondered if there was a way for him to foster that good, a way to bring him back. But as it stood, Itachi was not leaving the meeting because he was truly sick. He'd left the meeting because his crow, Wotan, had come across dire news. News that Sasuke had been killed. Itachi held it together for a time, but came to his room and just sat down. There, he let out all of his tears that he'd been fighting, holding back. It was meaningless. It was useless, he shouted within himself. Everything I did was for nothing. Itachi had been young and stupid. Even in his younger years, he was considered as wise as the Hokage, but this wasn't to say that he never made a mistake, and he had made a grave one. Life had forced him in that direction. He had been forced to take this course of action, but there was one choice he made personally that he regretted. He regretted leaving Sasuke behind. Itachi knew that he had to leave. He knew that he had to exile himself from the village, but the choice to join the Akatsuki was his own. He had hoped to foster hate within Sasuke so that one day he might target him. One day he might, through hatred, hunt Itachi down and kill him, delivering the justice they all deserved. Sasuke, the last Uchiha, was the only one fit to be his executioner. He had tormented the boy, scared him, given him nightmares, and done everything within his power to traumatize him and force him to grow stronger. But to his absolute surprise, Sasuke instead pulled back. He didn't extend his arms up to the sky, demanding retribution upon Itachi. He instead held it all in and moved on. There was patience in this boy's heart, something to the point that even Itachi couldn't understand. Even Itachi could not swallow hatred like this. How could Sasuke? Maybe it wasn't that Sasuke was so patient. Maybe he had a reason not to. Was it possible that he had seen through Itachi's ploy? Was it that Sasuke simply still possessed love for Itachi despite everything? Whatever it was didn't matter now. There was no way to ask. This destroyed Itachi. Itachi had wished for that one moment he could go back. That instead of threatening him and forcing him to experience the deaths of his parents over and over again, that instead he had hugged him, explaining everything to him, begging him to forgive him and follow him out of the village to a safer and peaceful location. But he hadn't. He'd been foolish. Itachi could not hold it in. He cried bitterly. Outside of his room, Kisame leaned against the wall and listened to it. Kisame was far more intelligent than most gave him credit for, and he was always the one that was questioning Itachi's loyalty. It was because Itachi wasn't as slick as he thought he was. Kisame could see right through him. Tobi could see right through him. Pain could see right through him. They knew what he was up to, which is why they never told him anything. Even still, Itachi was a good man, and despite his treasonous nature, you couldn't help but love the bastard. And as Itachi cried, Kisame could do nothing more than lower his head and shake it, realizing that half of Itachi's grand designs had come crashing down. It truly was sad. Pain would need to send him a fruit basket or something later. Jiraiya, Naruto, and Konohamaru were making their way down the road. They were all singing a song about toads. They would continue the song as they danced down the road. They eventually made it to Jiraiya's house, which Naruto and Konohamaru were awestruck by. It seemed so massive. Jiraiya's abode was no different than many others. In fact, it might have been smaller, but considering where Naruto and Konohamaru had been living, it must have seemed massive. "I bet it's even bigger than Grandpa's house," Konohamaru shouted. It wasn't, but maybe the boy just didn't realize this because he was too excited to be someplace new. There was a river nearby and a clearing in the woods. The home sat in the center of the clearing and even had a koi pond nearby. It seemed so peaceful. The birds chirped nearby their beautiful song. Jiraiya picked up a stone and threw it into the trees. "Shut up!" he shouted. "Stupid birds are always pecking holes in the side of my house, thinking they can find grubs or whatever. Wish they'd all just spontaneously combust." He looked around. "I've got a spare room in the house you two can use. I've got 2 rolls and a partition just in case you want to have some privacy." Konohamaru refused the partition. "I had my own room when I lived with Grandpa. I want to share a room with Oni-chan," he shouted in excitement. Jiraiya let them get settled, but he wouldn't wait too long for training. The first thing he did was bring them outside to start building up muscle. As it turned out, the more you increased your physical strength, the more you could increase your chakra. Your body and soul were 2 sides of the same coin. If you took care of one, you were taking care of the other. The way you looked meant nothing. It was what you could do that mattered, and a shinobi would always strive to be fast and strong. So he had them doing a lot of physical exercise to start with, which left them near incapacitated on the ground once they finished. "We just walked all the way here from Konoha. Why do we have to work out now?" Jiraiya looked down at them. "A light walk like that is barely enough to be called exercise. Why, in the war, we had to walk 15 miles uphill in our bare feet in the snow just to get to the battle, and then we'd rush in, fight, die, and then walk it all off and do it again. You kids are spoiled. But don't you worry, Uncle Jiraiya is gonna make something of you. Alright, up. We're gonna see how much chakra you can build up and expend without dying." The kids looked over at each other without speaking, just a look of utter fear in their eyes. They'd be off to bed immediately afterward. The sun was barely setting, and they'd only taken the time off to have dinner and take a bath. Naruto would button up his pajama shirt and put his hat on as he'd fall back into his bedroll. He would look over at Konohamaru, who was also in his PJs, but he seemed a lot livelier than Naruto. He was busy setting up a picture of Hiruzen. He sat it above his pillow and smiled at it. "Good, now Grandpa's here too. The room's perfect." Naruto looked at his own picture frame. It was a picture of himself, Kakashi, Sakura, and Sasuke. It was the picture they had taken immediately after becoming a team. It was bittersweet, but he looked at it and smiled. Jiraiya knocked on the door. "Housewarming," he shouted and came in. "I found these old things in the closet when I was cleaning up. I don't have much use for them, so I thought you two would enjoy them." He presented them each with a stuffed frog. Naruto and Konohamaru hugged them close, which brought a smile to Jiraiya's face. He looked down at them. "Asleep with the sun, eh? A good practice for shinobi. Rise and set with the sun. It gives you the strength to train your rears off. Me though, I'm a bit older and I got other stuff to do, so I'm gonna be up for a good many more hours. Let me know if you need anything." He went to shut the door, but Konohamaru called out to him. "Oji-san, what are you working on?" Jiraiya peeked back in. "Oh, I'm a writer. I'm writing novels and stories." Konohamaru's eyes lit up. "Stories? Oh, read us one." Jiraiya scratched the back of his head. "I don't think my stories are meant for children." Konohamaru seemed disappointed. Naruto was too busy playing with his stuffed frog to care. Jiraiya thought about it. How about I tell you another story? What about one of the times I was in Amagakure teaching kids not too unlike you two?" Konohamaru nodded his head and sat there, waiting for elaboration. Naruto even put his frog down for a minute and turned over to face Jiraiya. Jiraiya began to tell his story of adventure and fun, starring himself, of course, and his 3 sidekicks, Yahiko, Konan, and Nagato. He told them of the times he attempted to teach them how to fish. "You see, the knot wasn't perfect, but it was strong. A lot of things in life are like that. Anyway, Yahiko was the only one who got a bite on the line, so we rushed over to help him reel it in. Konan and Nagato cheered him on from the side, and I told him how to do it without letting the fish snap the line, and by thunder did he pull it in. Well, we were planning to eat it that night, and I was taking the picture with it, and the fish began to bounce around in Yahiko's hand, and it slapped him in the face with its tail and jumped back in the water." Jiraiya laughed. He pulled out some pictures to show. "We had to order out that night. Isn't that just how life is sometimes? You don't always get what you expect. But then again, if you always knew what to expect, life wouldn't be any fun, now would it?" He stood. "Anyway, I gotta be off. Got a nasty case of constipation and writer's block, and I plan to solve one of them by the end of the night. Sleep well." He closed the door behind him. Naruto put the plush under his head as an extra pillow. Konohamaru cuddles up with his. "Good night, Oni-chan." He falls asleep. Naruto, however, finds himself looking out the window for a time. He watches the sun set and then further watches the stars come out. He looks over at the picture of Team 7 and then looks over at Konohamaru. It was then that he felt in his heart that he would be okay. Sasuke would always be with him, and now he was the big brother to another down on his luck shinobi. So maybe everything would be okay. And so the next day they began to train a lot harder. But instead of just physical training and chakra training, Jiraiya had them doing mental training too. He taught them the ancient game of shogi. He taught them how to focus chakra flows in the body, but above that, he taught them how to do a few more various ninjutsu. He started with the easier stuff, such as the fireball jutsu. Jiraiya was especially proficient in fire style, and he was hoping to pass this on to his students. But beyond that, he knew that it was important to let the student focus on what they were good at. So he gave them each a special piece of paper. The paper was designed to help them learn what their natural affinity was, which style of chakra nature naturally flowed in them. For Konohamaru, the paper burst into flame, as it did for Jiraiya when he first started. But Naruto's paper did differently. It was cut to pieces, signifying he had a natural affinity for wind style, which was unique, as not many people were naturally geared towards that. Many could learn to use it, but very few had a natural affinity for it. The only person Jiraiya could think of right off the bat would have been Danzo Shimura. But alas, this was not all Jiraiya hoped to teach Naruto. He also wanted to teach him how to use his tailed beast. There wasn't much that Konohamaru could do to learn from this, and so, while Naruto was training to learn to control his tailed beast, Jiraiya kept Konohamaru occupied by making him learn how to make a Rasengan. Now, the Rasengan is a hard jutsu to master. It was given the A rank due to its difficulty after it was invented by Minato Namikaze, so Konohamaru would take a long time to even complete it, let alone master it. But the good news was that him constantly trying was a form of training. Not only was he straining his chakra to make it, but he was also learning to increase his chakra while controlling and containing it, which naturally made a shinobi stronger. Even if you had a small energy well, if you managed to control it right, you could beat anyone, no matter how much chakra they had. So he had Konohamaru focusing on that. Naruto, on the other hand, was only now meeting with the Nine-Tails for the first time. Jiraiya told him to be forceful. The Nine-Tails couldn't hurt him so long as it was behind the seal. He also said that the Nine-Tails would try to manipulate him and that it wasn't his friend, so he shouldn't even bother treating with pleasantries. This didn't stop Naruto from doing so, but he was at least forceful with the Nine-Tails, demanding chakra from it. The tailed beast would answer Naruto by providing him with chakra, knowing that the more chakra he gives, the sooner he's likely to break free. Naruto would enter his initial Jinchuriki cloak at first before eventually progressing into his version 1 state. Jiraiya was impressed by his growth. Was this because he was naturally gifted, or perhaps it had something to do with his Sharingan? Who knows? Naruto was growing stronger, and that's what mattered. As time went on, they both worked on their Rasengan. Konohamaru was upset. He could spin the balloon and he could even pop it, but he couldn't create a Rasengan. He couldn't keep it compact. Naruto was having the same issues with the ability. Konohamaru kicked a can across the yard in frustration. "Oni-chan, I can't do it." He seemed so peeved. Naruto couldn't either. He could make it spin and pop, but not recreate it without the balloon. He just couldn't make the shell form right, so what was one to do? Naruto came up with an idea. He raised a finger to Konohamaru to get his attention before crossing his index and middle fingers over his other side to create a shadow clone. The shadow clone would walk to Naruto as he would raise his hand. Naruto would attempt to make a Rasengan, but as he was failing, his shadow clone would stick out its hands and begin to smooth out the shell, allowing Naruto to make a perfect Rasengan. Konohamaru was amazed. It was so powerful too. Naruto smashed it into a tree, which left a deep, spiraling depression in it. He then turned to Konohamaru and tried to help him make one. Konohamaru managed to make one of his own with Naruto's help. Jiraiya felt that this was unconventional, but until it could be perfected, this was a good solution to their issue. Eventually, one day, as Naruto and Konohamaru got up to train more, Jiraiya stopped them and told them that they had something else to do. At some point during the night, in the village nearby, a girl had been kidnapped. Some said it was by a demon, but no one knew exactly what it was, and so Jiraiya and his students went to investigate. They head down to the village, and while there, they would find the home of the girl who'd been taken. They talked to her parents, who said that she should have known it would happen. Jiraiya questions why this is. They tell him that on her 18th birthday, she awakened a strange dojutsu that allowed her to see into the future. So why shouldn't she have known? Jiraiya nods at this and begins to look for clues. As he checks her room, he sees Naruto going over to the dresser and opening up a very private drawer. Naruto, what are you doing in her underwear drawer?" Naruto looks back with flushed cheeks. "Looking for clues?" Jiraiya stands there. Did you find any?" Naruto shook his head. Jiraiya walks over. "Maybe you're not trying hard enough." He sticks his head in. Not long after, Konohamaru looks through too. It's then that her father walks in. "What the hell are you doing?" They look back with surprise on their face. "Looking for clues." They slam the dresser closed, only for a secret compartment to open up. A diary falls out. "Ha, see? I knew we'd find something. There's always something hidden in the secret drawer." He opens up the diary. They read through it with a bit of a smirk on their faces, but the father tells him to skip to the last entry. They begrudgingly agree. Flipping to the final page, they begin to read it. It was written the night before last. Oh joy, my love has agreed to run away with me. We shall meet up at the statue of the panda spirit tomorrow night. I have to wear my best perfume and do my hair up just the way he likes it. They read it and looked up. It seems like she eloped, Jiraiya said. The father shakes his head. There's no way my daughter would do this. It has to be genjutsu. We've not heard anything about a new boyfriend. Jiraiya thinks about it. It's possible, I suppose. Maybe we can track her? Search for more clues by the panda spirit statue. The father leads them out. Please, find her. Jiraiya and the students make their way to the statue and begin to search for more clues. It just seems like a statue with a fountain below it. There's nothing strange about it, let alone any clues. Or at least there wasn't until Konohamaru spoke up. I found something. Jiraiya walks over to take a look. He examines it closely. It was a stain, but the closer one looked, the more they came to realize what it was. Blood. Naruto looked at it and sniffed it. Too bad we don't have a dog or something to track it. Jiraiya said, if we had a dog, we could track the blood or the perfume, and The kids looked up to him, waiting for him to continue. Jiraiya rubbed his chin. Maybe I can borrow one for a while. I bet Kakashi wouldn't mind. Back in the leaf, Kakashi was reading his Icha and petting Paku while laying in a hammock. Paku, you're so wise. I can always tell you my troubles. Now, I wanted to ask you about this, he said as he stroked the dog. Suddenly, there was a poof. Kakashi raised his hand to find a note between his fingers. It read, I gotta borrow this for a little while. Thanks. Love, Pervy Sage. To say Paku was confused was an understatement. He was suddenly in front of a fountain. He looked up to see Jiraiya waving at him with blood dripping from his thumb. Paku spoke. Oh yeah, I forgot I made a contract with you, too. Konohamaru was already on his knees hugging Paku as Naruto was petting him and playing with his ears. Paku, barely able to breathe, spoke. I assume this is important. Jiraiya would nod his head. A girl's gone missing and we need someone to track a scent for us. Can you help? Paku agreed. Give me something to sniff. Jiraiya would spritz some of the perfume out in front of them. Paku would take a sniff and then sneeze. He'd shake and then begin to walk about, his nose up in the air. I think I got something. Follow me. Paku would rush off and the others would follow close behind. They jumped from tree branch to tree branch. The smell was getting stronger and stronger. They kept going until they found their destination, a small underground facility. Jiraiya looked at it. Oh boy. Naruto looked back at him questioningly. Jiraiya looked down on them. This looks like one of Orochimaru's facilities. Konohamaru gasped. You mean the guy who killed Grandpa? He's here? Jiraiya shrugged. It's entirely possible. We better be careful. They began to sneak into the facility to look for any sign of the girl. Jiraiya told them to be extra careful as there could be booby traps and other security devices. They continued to sneak in deeper until they found what appeared to be a hiding area. There was a girl there. Her eyes were a beautiful purple, her hair was bright blonde. Jiraiya walked up and introduced himself and his students. Hello, I'm Jiraiya, and these are my students, Naruto and Konohamaru. She greeted them. I'm Kari. Can you please help me? I thought my boyfriend was gonna run off with me, but he brought me here. Jiraiya smiled and spoke under his breath. I guess she really would do that. Guess her father doesn't know her as well as she thinks. Jiraiya then spoke up. Can you tell us more about your boyfriend? She blushed. Oh, he's the most handsome boy I've ever met. He's tall, well-built. His hair is white like an angel, and he has the most caring eyes, hidden under such intellectual glasses that shine like moonlight. Jiraiya had hoped for a less cheesy description, but he could peg the boy she was talking about. It was Kabuto, Orochimaru's subordinate. He just happened to be the one who killed Tsunade when Jiraiya was sent to recruit her. He took advantage of her hemophobia and struck when she wasn't able to react. Boy may not have been the strongest in the world, but he definitely was the sharpest tool in the shed. Jiraiya began to unlock the cage as Konohamaru explores the room. He finds a notebook that speaks about her. Apparently, she possessed a unique dojutsu that appears in those of royal blood from the land of demons. Apparently, it's called the Miraigan and has the ability to see into the future, but only events in which one is about to die. This includes the user. He'd show the pad to Jiraiya, who would look at it. No wonder Orochimaru wants this dojutsu. He can practically avoid death with it. The girl shakes her head. No, it doesn't work that way. Once you see someone's death through my Miraigan, it's set in stone. You can't change it no matter what you do. All you can do is accept it. At that moment, they would hear the sound of a bell ringing and Kari would seemingly go into a daze. She almost wanted to pass out. Jiraiya caught her. What is it? What's wrong? She opened her eyes. I just witnessed the future. One of you will die. Jiraiya was shocked. Which one? She pointed down. Him. He will die, she said, pointing at Konohamaru. Konohamaru was startled. Die? I don't want to die. Someone trade places with me. It was then that Kabuto and Orochimaru walk in. It looks like we have uninvited guests, Orochimaru states. Kabuto laughs. What is this? Have you come to steal away a guy's girlfriend? Naruto steps in front of Konohamaru, and Jiraiya steps in front of Kari. Orochimaru sighs. Isn't that noble, protecting them from me? But you should know by now, Jiraiya, that I've always been stronger than you and always will be. Don't you remember the rules of Mushiken? The frog always loses to the snake. Jiraiya pops his knuckles and his neck. I always played homebrew rules, snake. Orochimaru would send snakes from his sleeves at Jiraiya, who would burn them away with fire release. Kabuto would rush at Naruto with a scalpel. Naruto, pulling a kunai, would defend himself. The two would trade blows in this tightly packed room, Naruto doing his best to keep Konohamaru out of the fray. If it was true that he'd die if he fought in this battle, then he wanted to keep him out of the battle to save his life. He wouldn't let another brother die. Orochimaru, pulling the blade of Kusanagi from within his throat, would once again rush at Jiraiya. Jiraiya would defend himself with his hair needle technique before firing the hair out at Orochimaru like Senbon, driving him from the room. Jiraiya would follow after him. As Naruto and Kabuto fought, he felt himself get struck in the cheek by Kabuto's foot, knocking him to the side. Naruto almost lost consciousness. He heard Konohamaru crying out for him. He sat up and looked back as he formed a Rasengan, but to his surprise, there were two Konohamarus, each one attacking the other, stuck in a lock. Save me, one of them shouted. Naruto looked to them. Give me a sign. Which one of you is real? One of them seemed to tear up. Oni-san, I don't want to die. The other one seemed nervous. Oh, Naruto-kun. Remember when Jiraiya-sensei told us the story about Yahiko and the fish? I'm the real Konohamaru. Please, don't let me die. Naruto made the decision. The one who told him about Jiraiya's story was the one he struck. He hit this Konohamaru full power with the Rasengan, knocking him against the wall where there just so happened to be a broom handle facing out. The Konohamaru was impaled on it, but Naruto stepped in front of the real Konohamaru just in time to keep him from seeing. Even if it was an enemy, it was using his visage, and it would surely scar him for life to see himself impaled. Naruto turned around and looked at the real Konohamaru. Kono looked up at him with tears in his eyes. Oni-chan, how did you know which one was the real me? Naruto smiled. Because you would never call me Naruto-kun. Meanwhile, Kabuto had returned to his original appearance upon death. Kari was by his side holding him. Oh, cruel world, she cried. Why must you make me the Juliet to his Romeo? Naruto grabbed her and pulled her out of the room before she could be any more melodramatic. They rushed into the main hall where they witnessed Jiraiya fighting Orochimaru. Naruto would immediately enter his version 1 cloak and join the fray, but as he does so, Orochimaru summons Manda to defend him. As soon as the snake hit the ground, Naruto was knocked back. Naruto goes sliding across the floor but manages to stand up and charge once again. Konohamaru stands with Kari to protect her as the battle rages on. Naruto would then manage to summon Gamabunta to face off against Manda. Naruto would rush off to help Jiraiya but would be kicked back by the Sannin and slide next to Konohamaru. Deep in Konohamaru's heart, he knows that Orochimaru had been the one to kill Hiruzen and he wishes to get revenge. But what can one boy do? He's not even a genin yet. How is he supposed to take out a man stronger than Grandpa? Naruto looks up at him. You can do it. I believe in you. Konohamaru stands there and gulps. He then forms a Rasengan in his hand. Naruto sits there and enters his version 1 chakra cloak, and he places his hands on Konohamaru's and transfers his excess chakra to him, building up his Rasengan into a new one. A technique Konohamaru calls Ototo to Onisan Odama Rasengan. He literally comes up with the name right on the spot and jumps up into the air with it. Orochimaru looks up to see the child coming at him. Little brother and big brother big ball Rasengan, he shouts. Jiraiya dives out of the way as Konohamaru presses the Rasengan onto Orochimaru. The ball explodes spectacularly, knocking all nearby on their rear, the pressure coming off enough to blow them back across the floor. When the light dissipates, they see nothing but a crater. Orochimaru is nowhere to be found. Laying in the center of that crater is Konohamaru, unmoving. Naruto stands and runs over to him. Konohamaru! He cries out as he rushes to the crater. Kari stands there and watches on. Jiraiya also rushes over. Naruto raises Kono up and holds him. Konohamaru grimaces and opens his eyes. Oni-san, did I do it? Naruto sighs with relief. You did, Kono. You beat Orochimaru. Suddenly, feeling comes back to the boy, and his broken and discolored arm suddenly flares up with pain. Konohamaru cries out, but eventually regains his composure, showing strength by only letting a few tears escape. Instead, he smiles to show he's pleased. Jiraiya wipes the sweat from his face. Damn, kid. That was a gutsy move. I expected no less from the boy who carries the name of the village. Jiraiya would stabilize Konohamaru's arm and pick him back up. Let's get back to the village. They would head back, leading Kari along with them. On the trip back, Jiraiya can't help but lament the fact that he's the last of his team alive. First he lost Hiruzen, then Tsunade, and now Orochimaru. He's the last member of his team left, and though Orochimaru had it coming, it does hurt to think about. Making it back to the village, they would bring the girl back to her father where they'd explain the situation to him. She indeed gets a scolding and is told never to run off like that again. They thank Jiraiya and his students for helping them and even pays them, which is enough for them to get the most high-end of all high-end ramen to celebrate. That night, they eat the ramen before their baths. After Naruto's bath, he steps outside and sits on the porch while Jiraiya tries to figure out how to get Konohamaru clean without getting his cast wet. While sitting there, Naruto looks up at the moon. As he does so, the moon seems to roll over and display what looks like a pupil. This freaks him out a little. The moon then turns red, and 3 tomoe appear on the moon and begin to spin before shifting into a 3-spoked Mangekyo Sharingan. The clouds rush by at unnatural speeds. Everything seems to stop besides that. The fire on the candles, the dragonfly that had been passing in front of his face, even the flowing river. Naruto stands up and looks around only to see a man in a black cloak with red clouds on it. The man possesses glowing eyes. Sharingan, like what Kakashi and Sasuke, and now Naruto possess. Naruto immediately knows who this must be, as there are no other Uchiha left. He gets into a defensive position and pulls out a kunai. The moment he blinks, the man who once was in the distance is now standing right in front of him. He falls back. "You're not gonna steal my eye. It's Sasuke's. I promised I'd show him the world." The man shakes his head. "I'm not here to take your eye away. I never wanted Sasuke's eyes." Naruto's confused. Itachi continues. "I only did those things to make him hate me so he'd kill me for the mistake I made. But that's all a moot point now. He's gone and I'm utterly alone." Naruto continues to look up. "Why did you come here?" Itachi looks down. "I've come to warn you. Within your body is the demon fox, the Nine Tails. I am a part of an organization known as the Akatsuki. I've come to warn you that the organization will soon move and attempt to steal it from you, as well as all other tailed beasts. If that happens, you will die. The reason why we're targeting these tailed beasts is unknown to me, but I do know that you'll be in danger, so please, be prepared." Naruto was confused. "Why are you telling me this?" Itachi smiled. "I see Sasuke in your eyes. He trusted you with his dreams. I'll hedge my bets on you too." That was what Naruto noted about this man the most. He had such a kind, warm, and inviting smile. But before Naruto could ask another question, the man was gone, and the moon returned to normal. Naruto was just sitting on the porch, all alone again. Suddenly, that dragonfly passed by his face, and he heard flowing from the river. "The Akatsuki," Naruto said as he awakened from his dream. Itachi, from a distance, would turn to walk away, unaware that in the trees nearby, Kisame Hoshigaki was watching him. He shook his head. "I was afraid it would come to this." He would then disappear and head back to their base, beating Itachi there. That night, Naruto could only think about what Itachi had said. He looked at the picture frame that showed himself, Sakura, and Sasuke with Kakashi. There were so many questions he had, but those questions were for another day. And that's where I'm going to stop the story for now. This one was a 100% original filler arc. I hope you enjoyed it. Any Naruto fan knows that a Naruto story isn't complete until it has a filler arc shoved in there somewhere. So if you enjoyed it, please consider clicking the thumbs up. And if you have more ideas like this, please let us know in the comments below. We love to hear from you. Until next time, peace.
Did you enjoy our video? Well, then be sure to check out these other great videos from the Amagi, and make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.